You want to know about those 5 kids who disappeared, don't you? No, I'm not a mind reader. I just know that most people who come and talk to me want to talk about those kids. That was a horrible summer. I mean, I know kids have disappeared in other places, but so many kids in one area and they were never found. But to tell you really the story of those 5 kids and what happened to them, I have to tell you about my first summer job. There it was, 1987, and me, Justin Fitzpatrick, was ready to enter the workforce. So of course, I wanted to work at the pizzeria. Everybody wanted to work there. Why make fries at McDonald's when you could actually be working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria? Where fun and imagination come to life. I remember that slogan, and now as an adult, thinking back and knowing what happened, I wonder how much management knew about what was really going on there. Just because of that slogan. Freddy Fazbear's was a pizzeria where kids mostly would go in and have pizza, and while they could play video games, play those games where they give you tickets, and also be entertained by Freddy and his pals, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and a few others. The pizza was never anything to write home about. It was crap. You didn't go there for the pizza. You went there for the atmosphere, for the fun. So I wanted to work there. I wanted to be a waiter, or I wanted to be the guy who gives out the prizes, those little stuffed animals, to the kids when they turned in their tickets. But I didn't get those jobs. The only thing they had available was a night security guard. Now you've got to understand, at 16, I thought this was so cool. I got to stay up late, and I could sleep all day, and it would be so much fun. And I could do all this stuff, and I should have known. I should have known because the month before I applied, I saw the ad for that security guard, the night security guard, show up 3 or 4 times. It would be gone and be back. It seemed like people couldn't stand it. That they could only last 5 or maybe 6 or 7 nights. Oh, I know. Why was Freddy so attractive? Because you have to understand, it was the 80s. The only other place you could see animatronics was Disneyland. Now, you know, nowadays a kid can make one in his room if he's got the right equipment. But those animatronics. The animatronics, it amazes me how blinded we were. Because we were so caught up in the possibility of these wonderful things that no one had ever seen before that we just accepted things they told us. I remember the supervisor telling me that the animatronics were actually tied into some child predator system, and if, you know, they would recognize it and inform it, and it was all just such bullshit. They don't even have that kind of technology now. But we accepted it. Maybe because it also explained why they needed a night security guard. I mean, if you think about it, what kind of crook is going to try to rob a kid's pizzeria? What, did they want the stuffed animals or something? No, it was for the animatronics. I was told that the animatronics, while they were being created, were never given a proper night mode. And so they would wander from room to room, and also they had to do that because if they were turned off, their circuitry would get rewired or blown out or something like that. And so they would be attracted to noise. And so if you saw one, you just had to put on that Freddy helmet, Freddy head. They would think you were another animatronic, and they would walk away until the next time. Of course, that didn't work on some of them. Some of them you had to actually flash a light because it reset their system. I believed them then. I didn't believe them. I don't believe them now, especially now, from what I know. I mean, seriously, why would a night mode or turning a computer off fry its circuits? You were going to turn it back on the next day. Freddy's Fazbear's was open 7 days a week. Do I think they lied to me? I sometimes go back and forth, but if you were to ask me definitively, I would say no. I think they saw what the animatronics were doing at night, and they tried to come up with some explanation, because that's what human beings do. We see something we don't understand, and we try to come up with something to explain it. So there I was, just my first night, just sitting there, waiting. And you know, my dad had given me one of those little portable TVs, black and white, but you could still see things. And maybe that TV was maybe on for 4 hours that first night, and then I never turned it on again because it was distracting. And I found out very quick that you had to pay attention at all times, especially at night. The thing that struck me was how the animatronics moved. I mean, on stage, they just kind of turned their head, moved their arms, and their mouth was opening, never quite matching the words that were coming out. But at night, when they moved around, they moved like human beings would. They would even get into the grates. I think that was maybe my first inclination that there was just something wrong with them. Why would they even know about the grates and how to get in? And you would hear them coming in. I mean, usually it was Bonnie coming in from the right. You could hear them, and you had to put that helmet on. And I thought that when the animatronics would come in and they would see me and my Fredbear hat, they would just walk away. Bonnie proved that wrong. Bonnie, of course, was the bunny, the blue one. Bonnie almost slowly walked past my eyes, as if she was examining me. He, she, I don't know. There was a ton of debate about that for a while, about which one was female and which not, but it just walked right in front of me, slowly, as if it was examining me. Just walked away. Freddy never really came out all that much. He was bigger than the other animatronics. He would come for a while, but not as much as the other ones. Chica, I never liked Chica. She was the chicken. And the thing about Chica was, there were these cameras that were on your set, so you could see where the animatronics were. It kind of helped you out. But Chica sometimes would just look at the camera, and I swear it was the lighting or something, but her eyes just went black, as if there was nothing there. Trust me, the biggest scares I ever got, well, the most non-threatening scares, was when I turn on a camera and Chica would be right there in front of the camera looking at me. Just staring. I began to have trouble sleeping probably after the fourth night. I was getting these horrible nightmares of Freddy being locked away in that restaurant. No help was coming, and power going out, and that they were watching me. The strangest thing that I ever thought was that the animatronics never talked at night. They talked during the day. They would tell funny jokes, sing these stupid little songs. But at night they never talked. Given what I know now, I think they didn't do that because that would give away where they were. What convinced me to quit? Well, it was two things. I think it would have to be that night with Foxy and the tin can. Foxy was the fox who lived in Pirate's Cove, and the thing with Foxy was you had to use the light. He was, or she, had to get that and would reset their system. And so one night I was in the security office just watching the cameras. You got paranoid every time because you kept thinking that the animatronics were getting closer every time. But I saw Foxy down the hall, and I just pulled out my flashlight, gave it a few clicks, and Foxy went off into Prize Cove, I think it was. God, those rooms had so many names. And for the next few minutes it was quiet. And that's when I suddenly heard something. It sounded like Foxy was moving towards me again. But when I shined my light, I saw that it was a tin can that had been tossed across the hallway. I immediately went to my left and saw that Foxy had moved up. The lights hit them and he moved off. It didn't hit me then. I thought that maybe Foxy had just hit a piece of garbage that was on the ground as he was walking. But that morning, I walked past the hall when I was leaving, and I looked and saw that that tin can was on a shelf, which suggested to me that Foxy picked up that can and threw it to distract me. But they shouldn't have been able to do that. The second thing that made me quit was actually happened during the day. It didn't even happen at my shift. I went in because I was going to ask for my birthday off. I didn't have any plans. I just wanted a night's sleep. And as I said, I had been having trouble sleeping ever since working there. So I went in, and the manager had to deal with something. So we were in the front, where the stage was. And he had to leave me, and there were kids walking around and everything. I wasn't scared until I looked up at the stage. The other animatronics weren't moving. The show, which started every 15 minutes, hadn't started, so they were just facing forward, except for Freddy. Freddy's head had turned, and he was looking right at me. And I swear to you, I saw recognition in his eyes. He knew exactly who I was. I could almost hear him whispering in my head, "Well, hello again. Seems like it's a good party today. But me and you both know the real party starts later tonight. And who knows? Maybe this time you won't be paying attention when one of us shows up in that office. Maybe there's even a little part of you that doesn't want to put that head on or flash that light." Four days after that was when I turned in my 2 weeks. The management didn't even try to talk me out of it. It's like they knew. I left and got a job at a community swimming pool, selling food at the snack bar. I didn't care. I could have been making $2 an hour. I didn't care. I was just away from that place. Do I think those animatronics killed those kids? No. What I eventually began to believe about Freddy Fazbear's was the place attracted evil. I don't mean that it made people evil or that it was cursed, but it was like a light that drew bugs to it. That place was just attracted the worst people. I remember the story about the manager, Greg, who, by all accounts, was just a happy guy and had no problems with anybody, and he worked there, and then 2 months later, he killed his wife, and then himself. Big shock, of course. I think those animatronics were wrong. That something, when they were built, something was just missed. I don't think they were evil. I think they just didn't care. There were no emotions. They did things just because they wanted to, not because of some programming. But it attracted evil. I know that. So now I have to tell you about who I did think killed those kids. Who I believed at that time and later found out the truth. This had to have been about 3 weeks after I had left. I was so terrified of that place that I would go out of my way to get to my other job just so I could avoid driving past it. And it worked. I added 6 minutes to the commute, but what did I care? But that day, there was construction and there was a detour, and I had to go around it. Now, I didn't start shaking with fear or get paralyzed. I was just going to drive past it. I was just going to drive past it. I wasn't even going to look at it. The parking lot up front was full, as always. Everybody loved Freddy Fazbear's. But I drove around it because to get to where I needed to go, that street, I had to go around the back. I saw the car first. That car was dark purple. To this day, I never have found any car in a car magazine that looked that color. It was purple. It was dark purple. It looked almost like a Cadillac. I'd never seen that car before. And what I saw was somebody was putting, looked to be coats, in the back seat. The person had on black pants and that same purple color shirt. It's funny what the mind does, but I immediately said, that's the purple guy. I drove past. As I said, I didn't want to spend any time around Freddy Fazbear's more than I had to, but that guy, I'm sure it was a guy. Just purple everything. 2 days later was when the local news talked about the second girl going missing. Last spotted going to the park. I thought about that day a long time afterwards because I suddenly started to realize that, was I sure that the purple guy was putting coats into the back seat? Could it have been a body? A very small body? I went to the police a week and a half later and told them. They wrote down, looked for it, but they never found it. Three kids went missing after that. All gone, never found. The parents, I mean, you'd have to believe these kids were 6 and 7. They didn't just run off. They were kidnapped or they were killed. I mean, we all knew that. All this talking has made me thirsty. Oh, I'm going to tell you about what I found out later, but it was going to take years before I found out what really happened to those kids. And also I'd have to tell you about the girl, her boyfriend, and the purple guy, and who he was. But I'm thirsty. Let me get a little drink, and then I'll tell you all about what happened decades later. I have to tell you about Tina, her boyfriend Brad, and that damn pizzeria.